Hey, if you've managed to get back to practice after injury, but your exercises are still painful, you've already made them easier, and you've rested enough but still no luck, well, there's clearly something missing. Pelvic floor is that missing piece of the puzzle. It is the essential secret weapon of injury rehab and prevention. It engages the right stabilizing muscles. And for me, for my injured athletes, was the game changer that allowed us to return to breaking without pain. Ignore pelvic floor in your workouts and dance, and you'll leave yourself open to injury again, or delay recovery. A short video cannot explain the necessary details on how to use pelvic floor. This video will give you everything you need. Let's remove that injury. Hey, I'm Coach Tom, and welcome to Breaking S&C. Today we are focusing on the pelvic floor muscles, what they are, how they form the foundation to prevent and get over injuries, and how to practically integrate them into your movements. The exercises will start small, but lead to bigger movements. By the end of the video, you may even get pain-free on a movement you've been scared to do. So, what is the pelvic floor? It's a group of muscles deep within the pelvis. The pelvic floor are muscles that you brace and should be integrated into everything, from rehab, to working out, to power, and general life. I wish I didn't need to teach this brace because it is weird, but it works, like near on 100% of the time with people I work with. I love seeing their excitement when it takes the injury pain away. And when I was injured, I remember being so frustrated. To get out of pain, bracing pelvic floor was easy compared to what I was willing to do. For general health, obviously it can help with bladder control and rehab after childbirth and some other stuff. But I don't care about that. I care about rehab and sport performance. The most important thing it does is this. When it's on and on enough, and the exercise is not past your strength level, the pelvic floor brace will engage your stabilizing muscles and not allow you to rest through your joints. Resting or pushing through your joints is usually the most common way people get injured. It's like the pelvic floor brace adds a safety layer of engaged muscles. This is the foundation to get over pain and prevent injuries. But it's not a strength boost. So once you have the pelvic floor on, you then strengthen this foundation from there. So it engages exactly the right muscles you need without cheating or compensating. This brings the tension from the wrong muscles into the right ones, thus strengthening the muscles that will get you out of pain. The pelvic floor will also show you uncompensated where your true and safe flexibility ranges are. See, I can go a lot further with my shoulder with it off, but then my shoulder joint feels like it's on the verge of injury and pain. Pelvic floor works more obviously with lower body and back issues, but as many of my clients have experienced, it works with upper body issues as well. See, the pelvic floor connects to the hips, which connect to the lat. The lat is a powerful stabilizer for the shoulder. It keeps the shoulders in their sockets, thus avoiding bones pinching on the joint area. Having pelvic floor on enough and not compensating will make the exercises you used to do way harder, but it will reduce pain and injuries and make your working out strength transfer way more into your breaking strength. You will be surprised how much you need to brace pelvic floor at the beginning, so prepare yourself. So, enough justification. How do we engage it? What we're trying to do is turn on the inner core through using the pelvic floor. So you have your six-pack muscles that we all know and love, but they are on the top. We want the deeper muscles, the obliques, and the deepest, the transverse abdominis. See, there are two ways to activate them. One is through forced exhalation, which is good for teaching you where they are, but not functional to actually engage them. Regardless, let's find the muscles first now. So you know that thing where people come behind you and poke your sides and make you jump? Put your fingers there and cough. Did you feel the muscles push against your fingers? Hopefully you did. If not, pause the video and try again. That was your inner core muscles working. But the other way to engage those muscles, which is the only and right way I want you to do it, is through pelvic floor. Here's where it gets weird. To engage pelvic floor, it's kind of like you're holding a poo and a pee. Now you know why I don't like teaching it. Anyways, so take your time, put your fingers on your sides, engage your pelvic floor, poo and pee muscles. No cough this time. And feel the deep muscles push against your fingers. Now, do not consciously contract your trunk. You are not contracting here. You are contracting the pelvic floor and it turns on here. Remember, the pelvic floor engages the right muscles for you. To feel that engagement, some of you will really need to brace hard in order to feel it. I know many will be skeptical at this point, telling a bunch of people on the internet I don't know to tense their but I want to reassure you, get this right and it will help get over your pain. Now we've learned the contraction, we then need to teach you the pelvic floor lock. Once this lock is on, you are good. You will be safe. When you go past your strength or flexibility level, this lock will want to come undone. And this is when I see compensations and pain happen. So let's learn the lock. In a dead bug position, all I want you to do is that same weird pelvic floor poo and pee contraction we did in the first exercise. Alternate between turning it on and off, so you can feel what it's like when it's braced. When it's off, your back will arch a bit. This is you hanging off your joints and superficial muscles. When it's on, your back will flatten on the floor. Off and on. Now we are not, I repeat, not crunching into position with the abs and hip flexors. All I'm doing is bracing that weird poo and pee contraction and it moves me into place. I do not move and click, it turns on. That's not what happens. We are not using the superficial muscles to move us in place. We're using the pelvic floor muscles to contract and it locks us in place. That's the major difference. I want you to turn it on and off 5 times so you can feel what it's like when you are holding the pelvic floor brace. So, on and off. The pelvic floor brace should feel like a deep brace in the hips. That is where the conscious effort goes. If you can feel that, great. Remember this brace when we move on. As you are thinking so hard, you may unconsciously hold your breath. Don't worry, you won't hold your breath once you build the skill. Moving on. I'm aware many of you may have checked out before this point, but for those that have stayed, we're now going to look at incorporating pelvic floor into bigger movements. Small movements aren't enough. We need to incorporate pelvic floor into our dancing. But first, let's continue down the trail. If you are injured, we are now going to integrate pelvic floor into some positions which you may have not attempted for a while. It should make the position pain-free at a low enough difficulty. For these exercises though, you'll need to understand that the pelvic floor needs to work as hard as it needs to work. So I'm using it right now, but standing is not that difficult of an exercise. So I'm using it like 3%. But if I'm going to do a max planche or something, it's on 100%, because all the other muscles are working that hard as well. This goes for when you are in the rep as well. Part of the rep will be harder than the rest. For instance, in a squat, you brace at the beginning, then the rep gets harder as you go down. So you brace, harder, 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 hardest, hardest, and then it starts to ease off. 95% of people underestimate that they need to brace really hard when they're learning this, because either their skill to turn on these muscles is not great at the moment, or their inner core muscles may be weak because they haven't been used properly. I have seen many people have a super calm face and claim they are turning it on 100%. You may need that concentration face. In fact, I need to hammer this point home. Yes, the pelvic floor may be on, but these are still muscles. Say I was doing a bicep curl. There's a certain amount of force you need to create in order to get the weight up, right? Say the weight is heavy. Yes, the bicep is on. You can see it working. If you are trying as hard as you can and you can't drive it up, then it's just because the weight is too much. We need to make it easier or engage and push even harder. So for other movements, if you can't feel that pelvic floor on, brace as hard as you can. If not, make it easier. This will allow the pelvic floor muscles to properly switch on. So if you don't feel the pelvic floor brace of the hips, it's likely you are either not bracing pelvic floor hard enough, you are getting tired in the set, you have chosen a progression that's too difficult and so have to compensate, or you're out of your true flexibility range, and so the pelvic floor lock cannot turn on properly. Where the flexibility range is can be difficult to tell, but get the engagement right with the exercises that follow, and you should be able to start learning where that is. Otherwise, with my other tutorials, just try and mimic my form as best as you can. Just like the on and off drill earlier, see if you can get the pelvic floor to move you into the right position. You will build the skill with pelvic floor. Engaging it will become second nature. I have every dancer asking the same question. how am I supposed to think about this when I'm dancing? But then soon after, they're hitting their power pain-free and never ask me this question again. Don't worry if you don't get it first time. Keep practicing. Some get it faster than others, but all learn it. So, leading you down the trail further, what exercises are in the next step? You only have to do a minimum of one of these, just so you can feel what using the pelvic floor is like in a bigger movement. As soon as you feel it in the right place, you can move on to the next section. So first and best is a squat position, hanging off a pole. I want you to lean back in a squat whilst holding on to something. You do not need to squat all the way down. Halfway is good. Then do the pelvic floor poo and pee contraction, and without consciously contracting them, you should feel your glutes light up a bit. That is how you know you are doing it correctly. It will not be a massive contraction, unless, of course, you really brace. Remember, the pelvic floor lock moves you. You are not moving into position, and click, it turns on. The movement can be big or small, but it really is just that weird poo and pee contraction that gets you into place. I'm going to call it the pelvic floor contraction from now on. Give myself a goddamn break. Anyway, another exercise is for the groin and adductors. Start on your back, legs in air, brace pelvic floor. Bring your legs out only as far as you can maintain that brace, and it's pain-free. Remember, further the legs go out, the harder the exercise becomes, and thus the harder you need to brace. Once out, feel the difference pelvic floor makes by relaxing pelvic floor. You should feel it shoot through your adductors. Turn the pelvic floor lock on again, and it should feel nicer and bring the tension back into your hips. The goal is to not feel it in your adductors when you do this exercise, and you feel the tension more in your hips. That's how you know you're doing it well. If you can still feel it in your adductors, bring your legs together a bit more to make it easier, and then try again. For shoulders, get into the dead bug position we were in earlier, and this time have your hands resting above your head. You'll now see how pelvic floor is important for upper body as well. The pelvic floor brace will show what your safe flexibility range is for your shoulders. Brace on and off. Feel the difference it makes. Again, remember, we are not consciously moving our shoulders. They move with the brace. You should feel like the shoulders come into their sockets more. That is how you know you're doing it right. In fact, to access the dodgy range of motion, you actually need to let go of pelvic floor a bit. The last example, get into a scapula push. We're trying to brace the pelvic floor to round your hips. So when the pelvic floor is off, you slacken, rest through the joints, and your back will be arched. When you brace the pelvic floor, it should round your hips. But again, it's the pelvic floor brace that moves you. That is how you know you are doing it right. You are not curling your hips using your abs and other superficial muscles. Try a few times on and off, on and off. And so, once you understand this pelvic floor activation a little better, my exercise tutorial videos can progress you even further. We will learn where to feel the exercise and how to move the tension to the right muscles through that pelvic floor contraction. And finally, how do we integrate pelvic floor into dancing, workouts, and life? Integrating pelvic floor into movement is quite tricky, especially at the beginning. Walking around, standing, moving your arm up and down are all exercises. They are all resistance. It isn't just when you're at practice or the gym. If you feel pain in a basic movement, you may just be that weak or exhausted in your stabilizers. But I want you to brace pelvic floor and see if you can get over that pain. Even temporarily, this will be an important lesson, as it will show when the right muscles are activated and have enough energy, you can get over this pain. Wait, what? I need it on all the time? I'm sorry to say, yeah. It needs to become how you generate force in your body. The foundation, the centerpiece. And because your stabilizing muscles are likely weak and or tired at the beginning, you will probably need to think about it even more to get out of pain. The harder the brace, the more the safety layer is applied. Though contracting any muscle will make it fatigue quicker. Additionally, right now, because it's a new skill and has been an underused muscle, it will feel like you have two modes, 100% on or 100% off. But we will build up the skill until you can use it just the right amount. This is why we also build up your strength with pelvic floor integrated, so it doesn't need to work as hard and can last longer. Unfortunately, it will be like you are learning all your movements again trying to integrate this. But pelvic floor will engage the right muscles, and if you have injury pain, will allow you to integrate braking and strength workouts a lot quicker. I've had dancers doing no footwork or power for months, then doing some that first session with me, just through pelvic floor. You don't build strength in 5 minutes, pure engagement. Now the pelvic floor is the foundation of movement, but it's not a strength boost. I can't go into the weight room and attempt to squat 400 kilograms because I braced my pelvic floor hard enough. Especially if you are injured. This pelvic floor turns on the right muscles, but if those right muscles are weak or exhausted, then they will give up soon. If you feel the pelvic floor turning off and hard to keep on, or you feel vulnerability or pain in your injured area and you cannot brace any harder, then you know you're at your safe limit. Rest and/or make the exercise easier and go again. During your movements, pelvic floor lock comes off, problems are likely to occur. But if the lock stays intact, you are safe. Though, a very important point as you get tired. The brain's job is to keep you alive. It will find a way to move, because evolutionary-wise, if you couldn't move, you would die. So when you are feeling the exercise in the wrong areas, those areas are doing work that the stabilizing muscles should be doing. If you are bracing pelvic floor and you feel the exercise in the right areas, great. However, as you start to become tired, the tension will start to move away from the right areas to the wrong ones, and your technique will want to slip. You may not feel tired, but when this happens, it's a sign that that area is fatiguing. So if you feel tension moving into other muscles, you have two choices. One, brace pelvic floor harder to bring the tension to the right muscles again, and grind 1 or 2 more reps out with good technique. Or two, if that doesn't work, just rest. You're done for the set. In each of my tutorials, I will highlight when this pelvic floor lock comes undone, but you will also need to feel it out. Ask yourself, what is my safe range of motion? Am I bracing hard enough? Am I just tired? Make it safe and pain-free. Build it from there. Remember, extra range of motion is a progression of difficulty. If you're injured, you will improve quickly. You're not building new strength. You're just trying to get back to where you were. But you have to choose a pain-free regression that allows the pelvic floor to stay on, whatever that may be. There's a lot of thinking to be done, but the skill will build and it will become second nature. Trust me. Anyways, that was the video. If you found this useful, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to put out more videos on different injuries and how to strengthen in the best way. Also, please give your feedback in the comments below. Ask any questions. Let me know what wasn't clear for you, as I'm aware this is all new information, and it will help make my message even better. Otherwise, until next time, train hard and stay safe.